There's quite a bit of ostentatious deification going on related to this recent situation, and this prompted an analysis of the name. And so, what we find here is that this name actually refers to a specific entity, and this entity is related to Scotland. The entity is known as the High Kirk. We're going to look at the deconstruction of this construct, and then we will look at the implications for that. So we see here in terms of this etymology, kirk as a noun is another word for church. This has been noted since the 1200s. It indicates that it is surviving as a Northern England and Scottish dialectical word from a Scandinavian source. And so it is coming out of the Old Norse. So let's look briefly at this word church. What we see here is, of course, this is related to the assemblage of a body of believers, collectively known as the ecclesiastical authority or power. If you recall, this is also related to that body of laws that we've talked about before related to the doctrine of discovery and the doctrine of conquest. And so you have that ecclesiastical authority, meaning of the church. Now, this is where the etymology deconstruction becomes extremely interesting. It indicates here that this word, kirk or church, is also referring to the word Kyrios. And if you recall, Kyrios is another way of saying ruler or Lord. In the Greek, it is referred to as Kyriakon, meaning of the Lord. What we find is that this name has roots in four ethnic collectives: Germany, Scotland, Ireland, and England. It is also referred to here as a name that is another pronunciation for church. And here we have some spelling variations for the name. And here is a dictionary offering, basically giving the same indications here. Kirk, meaning a church, specifically related to the Church of Scotland, as distinct from the Church of England. And here you can see the Old English, Old Norse roots for kirk coming into the English as church. This word kirk also has a very interesting motto, and the motto basically translates out of the Latin into the English as the best thing is the first. Now, we've addressed the middle name extensively, so for now we're just going to address the meaning of the first name. And the first name, of course, is Charles. And yes, that would be Charles, just like Charles I, Charles II, and Charles III. Now, you might find it interesting to know that the name Charles means free man or free person. And a free man is not someone who is simply not in bondage. This has a very special meaning because it also indicates nobility. Continuing on, we see a very interesting correlation going on here. The name Charles, that means free man, is synonymous with Amazigh. Amazigh is another word for free man. It's also another word for something else. Now, this word is coming out of the Berber language, and it is referring to the indigenous people of North Africa. It's also referring to the collective of people that are a part of a caste system. And so, with respect to the caste system, this particular collective, in terms of the meaning of the word, this is a very high status caste member. And so, this isn't simply about not being in bondage, this is beyond that which is simply not in bondage. Again, this name, this word is referring to the idea of nobility. And so, what is ultimately noted with respect to this name, Charles, that means free man, that is the same as Amazigh, which is free man or free person, noble. It also means more. And so it's very possible when we have heard throughout history this construct of a free person or a free person of color or other free persons, that the indication was simply another way of saying more, another way of saying a noble entity. Now, continuing on with this free construct, as we've discussed before, the construct of free is another way of saying deliver. In fact, in Scripture, there is an entity that is known as the deliverer, and that is another way of saying rescuer or someone who is a free man. And of course, when you deconstruct deliver, you find that deliver is another way of saying save. There is certainly always something unexpected and surprising with these deconstructions. So now back to the Church of Scotland. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the history of the Kirk of Scotland, this is a reference that you might want to check out. And while you're checking out this text for the history of the Kirk of Scotland, you might also want to check out the definition of deification and the implications for such in the scripture that many people espouse. Thank you for joining us for this brief deconstruction. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care.